Vin Vashishta. I'm here at IBM Think with Vivek. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do for IBM?
Sure. I'm Vivek. I lead product marketing for IBM Foundation Models. And thank you so much, Vin, for being here today and having this conversation with me.
Thank you so much. So I've got a ton of questions for you. Hopefully we can get to it in the amount of time we have. First, LLMs. You're using an open source approach, but what's that like? What is it like posting to Hugging Face? What is it like competing with other models? Tell me about that a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. So I came across a recent survey from the venture capital firm A16Z. It seems like 93% of the enterprises are working with more than 3 model providers. Yep. So it seems like everyone in the enterprise wants access to multiple models so they can pick and choose the right model for the right use case. So at IBM, we recently introduced bring your own model capability on WatsonX.ai. So clients, in addition to the multiple models that we provide on the platform, can also bring their own models that they are comfortable with from platforms like Hugging Face. Now, we are taking it one step further to engage the ecosystem, our partners, our clients, early on in the model innovation process. By open sourcing some of our Granite code models, we are giving the ecosystem the capabilities that they need to further add skill sets and knowledge that matter for the enterprise for certain use cases. And together, we can take this to the finish line. We have InstructLab, another capability that I'm excited to talk about. That is also a key component of the strategy.
We heard it in the keynote. What is InstructLab?
Sure. So InstructLab is an open source toolkit from IBM and Red Hat that allows you to align the models for specific applications. This is really critical, especially when in a lot of enterprise applications, the generative AI models are susceptible to hallucinate, give you responses that are not desired. You may have heard about a lot of PR disasters that companies got themselves into for lack of capabilities that allows them to align the models. So with InstructLab, what we are essentially trying to do is divorce the model from skills and knowledge. The skills and knowledge can be imparted to the model through data sets. And these data sets can sit within your organization or could be contributed by anyone in the open community. By engaging the open community, you can accelerate the cycles that are required to properly align the models for business applications. So that is what we are trying to do with InstructLab. We have a set of capabilities within Red Hat as well as soon to be on WatsonX that allows you to keep track of all the data sets that are representative of skills and knowledge so that no matter which model you are using, you are able to apply the same set of skills and knowledge to tune the models for specific applications.
And that's good. I mean, we're talking about customer applications, we're talking about use cases, we're talking about safety and alignment. So those are actually many of the concerns people have with going to open source. And so you're saying open source actually solves a lot of the problems that people typically associate with open source. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, why would a customer choose open source AI models versus closed models versus those more controlled type of models and safety? Talk about that a little bit. How does IBM address the safety component?
Sure, absolutely. So those are great questions. Firstly, let's talk about why enterprises need to embrace open, right? Firstly, IBM has a really strong point of view when it comes to open innovation. We've been doing open source even before open source became cool, right? Yep. IBM was leading the charge with respect to Linux, Apache, Eclipse, and we have been driving open standards, open governance, open licensing when it comes to open source to ensure that everyone gets to benefit from the open source movement in a sustainable way. And with models, our conviction is that the future of AI should be open. Let's talk about clients. Why should they get involved in open source? We are all operating in a resource-constrained environment, especially when it comes to generative AI. You need a lot of upfront investment to be made to provision the right set of capabilities that your teams can capitalize on to build generative AI applications. And it does not stop there. Once you start operating and scaling generative AI, you incur a lot of costs in terms of inferencing, maintenance, etc. So what can we do as a company like IBM, and also working closely with other partners like Meta, who we are engaging through the AI Alliance, reduce the barriers for generative AI adoption for enterprises. So here is where, you know what, enterprises, their resources should probably be dedicated to build best of breed applications that would serve their employees, their customers, their ecosystem. Their resources would be wasted if they spend it on upfront processes like innovating on the models, tuning the models, etc. So that's where I think the open source movement is a win-win for everyone participating in the ecosystem. But again, you raise some legitimate concerns when it comes to security, safety. Here is where I think a company like IBM, which has had several years of experience working in open source, which also has Red Hat as part of the organization that has successfully commercialized enterprise Linux, to handhold us through the process. We can work on open standards, open governance, open safety protocols when it comes to generative AI. Red teaming is also going to be important, so developers within the enterprises have access to tools that will allow them to explore any vulnerabilities, susceptibility of the model to drift away from the guardrails that you have set up. So this, I think, will help us make generative AI more safe even when we are tapping into the open source ecosystem.
So you mentioned some really good points, but do you think that customers understand the costs? Do you think that going in, especially early maturity, first sort of experimentation phase, do you think they understand the costs?
That's a really good question. So again, costs fall into two major buckets.
Yep.
Fixed costs, variable costs. Do customers want to implement generative AI on-premise within their technology environment, or are they okay with working with cloud-based generative AI solutions? So it's a conscious decision. On one hand, if you make an upfront capital investment to buy your way into generative AI, you might be able to, in the long run, reduce your costs. But again, that serves as a barrier from quickly adopting generative AI. And some of the studies that we did as part of the organization, we learned from the C-level executives that we are working with that they are under immense pressure to roll out generative AI faster while mitigating foundation model related risks, right? So I think organizations have a lot to worry about. The cost profile of generative AI is not straightforward. Every 2 weeks, we have some new development in the foundation models generative AI landscape. So it's always a moving target. But what I can say with conviction is, look, IBM as a company has seen some of these waves for so many decades. So we have a consulting unit which is on standby to step in to advise you at the need of the hour if you, let's say, feel like the cost is going out of the roof. So that provides you with additional cushion. No other company in the planet has a full technology stack as well as a consulting service to give you a generative AI solution as opposed to give you puzzle pieces to solve. So that's where I think clients, especially enterprise clients, can be a bit more relaxed when it comes to generative AI and focus more on the value creation part versus the risks, the costs that come with generative AI.
So getting back to Granite and looking at it as it's not really a standalone product. Is it open source?
Sure. So Granite today comes primarily in two modalities. The first is code, the second is language. So we have open sourced 4 base models that are applicable for code use cases, ranging from 3 billion parameter, 3 billion to 34 billion parameter in parameter size. So we have 4 models: 3 billion, 8 billion, 20 billion, and 34 billion parameter models. So these models are available on Hugging Face. It's licensed through Apache 2.0. Anyone can download these models, have access to the model weights, and you can retrain these models with your own data set. You should be able to apply these models that you retrained with your data. And then when it comes to language models, we did open source one language model, which is a 7 billion parameter model. And our flagship models today are the 13 billion parameter English language model, and we have a 20 billion parameter multilingual model, which a lot of clients are using right now. Although these models are not open source, we still publish the data sources for these models. We do clearly explain how these models were trained, so clients can confidently scale generative AI with these models. So these are the major Granite series models that we have right now. Some of them are completely open source. Some of the models are not open source, but still have some of the features that you would expect from an open source model.
So how does WatsonX fit into that open source to product development pipeline? Getting it, as you're saying, to scale instead of simply being stuck in that prototype purgatory that a lot of companies just can't get out of.
Sure, absolutely. So WatsonX is the enterprise platform that would allow you to scale generative AI with confidence. I probably said that multiple times. So with InstructLab, the game has changed. We will bring some advanced capabilities soon on WatsonX that would allow you to maintain a catalog of skill sets and knowledge. We are calling it the taxonomy tree or knowledge tree, where the skills and knowledge are organized in such a way that you know which ones to pick for which use case. And you keep updating the catalog so that irrespective of which model you're using, you can always repurpose some of the same skill sets and knowledge. So as an enterprise, you are essentially investing on building out those skills and knowledge that are representative, that best perform in your business context versus you putting in the resources to build the models, to build the platform. That's where I think WatsonX can be a really handy tool for an enterprise, allowing you to fully exploit the potential of open source innovation when it comes to AI models and generative AI.
So we've talked about, well, really just touched on it, but the concept of assistance and intelligent assistants, intelligent agents, people are confused. What is the strategy on assistance?
Sure.
And how do you feel that's going to help your customers accelerate and get products, get innovation into the hands of users, into the hands of customers faster?
Sure. So in addition to the platform level capabilities, in addition to the models, IBM also offers prepackaged assistant solutions. We are calling it WatsonX Assistance, and we are extending that for different applications, use cases. We have assistance for code, we have assistance for digital labor, we have assistance for customer experience, and now we also have an assistant for business intelligence. So these assistants, we in fact at THINK, the conference we are in right now, have a dedicated neighborhood for assistants, which means as a company, we also understand that some of the clients do want to go to market faster with assistant capabilities, and we want to provide them with the option of going with out-of-the-box capabilities. And I think with assistants, what's happening as opposed to enterprise search, the previous the technology that we used previously before assistance, is that we are able to move from information to insights, insights to decisions, decisions to actions faster, which is going to improve productivity in different business contexts, and it's also going to improve customer experience. So there are a lot of great business outcomes when it comes to using assistants, but the foundational set of capabilities also matter. You have these assistants, great, they solve specific business problems, fantastic. But again, are these assistants using the right models? And at IBM, we have a new class of models that we are calling enterprise-grade models. Models that have the optimal mix of attributes that create trusted, performant, and cost-effective generative AI. And we have the platform to harness and scale the models with the governance capabilities, the guardrails that you need to stay in control as you are scaling generative AI across the enterprise for different use cases and giving employees access to all these powerful capabilities.
That's awesome. So last question, let me just sort of wrap it up.
Sure.
So we're running out of time here. When are we going to see companies outside of the big tech bubble start to deliver generative AI products, not the prototypes, not a couple of internal initiatives? I mean, true products. And really along that line, where do you see the biggest opportunities?
Sure, absolutely. I think the open source movement is serving as a catalyst because for smaller companies to enter a space like generative AI, which requires a lot of capital investment, it's really difficult. So with the open source movement, you're essentially reducing the barriers to enter this space. For example, you already have the models, some of them top-class models, available on open source and repositories like Hugging Face. You can just download the model. And you also have access to powerful database capabilities that would allow you to feed the right information to the models, to tune the models. So I think then the opportunity that some of the startups have is to partner with big tech, like IBM, for example, to build vertical applications and solutions using some of these fundamental capabilities. So business automation is going to be the next big shift. You already mentioned about agents, which will essentially represent people in certain situations. That's where I think the next order of innovation will happen. And some of the companies that pioneered model innovation, they themselves admitted that the further value comes from different parts of the technology stack. So this is my personal conviction that business automation agents, that's going to be the next big thing. I would also add multimodality. So how can you take some of the base models out there and add additional data sources to make these models more capable, more versatile? That could be another area where startups can, in collaboration with big tech and incumbents, really make an impact.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for being with me.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Ben.